Ever get that feeling where you've learned something, read the article, maybe watched the whole thing, but it still feels a bit surface level?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you're missing some deeper layer,
Oh,
right?
exactly. What if there was a way to tune into that deeper level, to sort of feel the information, not just process it intellectually?
Well, that leads us into a really interesting idea we're exploring today. It comes from the teachings of Sheikh Nurjan from the Mohammedan Way Sufi Meditation Center.
Right. He talks about something called fasting with the senses.
Mm-hmm. And the word fasting immediately makes most people think of, food and drink, abstinence.
Of course. But we're looking at it a bit differently today, aren't we? More like a deliberate practice to refine our energetic awareness, our vibrational sensitivity.
Precisely. Thinking about it as a way to become more attuned to the subtle energies, the stuff happening around us and inside us that we usually miss. And this is relevant, really, regardless of anyone's specific background.
Yeah, we're approaching this from that energetic experiential angle. So our mission for this deep dive, sparked by a recent YouTube video featuring Sheikh Nurjan, is to unpack this sensory fasting idea.
And explore how it might enhance our sensitivity, our whole experience of reality, maybe.
Okay, so let's dive in. Sheikh Nurjan points out something quite key about traditional fasting first, doesn't he?
He does. He suggests that if you only give up food and drink, you might actually just end up hyper-focused on being hungry and thirsty.
Right, like that becomes the whole experience, the lack of the physical thing.
Exactly. He uses this image like you're just staring at an empty physical plate.
An empty plate, yeah. But he's saying there's more. That if we shift how we engage our other senses, a whole different spectrum opens up.
That's the core idea. Let's maybe start with the ears. What does he mean by fasting with the ears? How does that connect energetically?
Okay, ears. So, according to Sheikh Nurjan, it's about making a conscious choice about what sounds we let in.
Mm-hmm. Intentionally tuning out sounds that carry, let's say, negative or draining energies.
Like gossip, constant negativity, maybe certain kinds of media, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. If we stick with that plate analogy, it's like pushing away the auditory junk food.
Okay, so curating your sound environment. Deliberately. Now, this is where it gets interesting energetically. He suggests doing this, filtering out the noise. It can open us up to something he calls spiritual hearing.
Right, and we need to be clear here. This isn't about suddenly hearing, like, literal voices whispering, is it?
No, definitely not. So what is it then on an energetic level? What's this spiritual hearing?
It seems to point towards a heightened sensitivity to beneficial vibrations in sound.
Okay.
Sheikh Nurjan gives examples like the recitation of sacred texts or prayers or uplifting devotional music. He mentions beatific nasheeds.
Right, so sounds that have a certain quality, a resonance.
Exactly. Think of sounds carrying frequencies that create a sense of peace or upliftment or just resonate deeply within you. It's less about the specific words, maybe, and more about the energetic quality.
So it's the vibrational energy we absorb through our ears. He emphasizes that these positive sounds build a kind of beneficial energy within us.
Yeah, like tuning an instrument. You filter out the discordant notes, the noise, and you become more resonant with the pure tone.
That's a great way to put it. And this leads to this idea of tasting with the ears. What's that about?
Well, Sheikh Nurjan talks about how people might feel strong emotions, even cry, when listening to these kinds of resonant sounds.
Ah, okay.
It's as if the ears aren't just passively registering sound waves, but you're actually experiencing the deep impact of those vibrations on your emotions, your energy.
Tasting with your ears. That's powerful. It makes me think of when music gives you chills or just moves you profoundly. You're not just hearing notes.
Exactly. He uses an analogy, too, something like a really high-frequency whistle. You can't physically hear it, maybe?
But something in you registers it, senses its frequency.
Right. It suggests we can become attuned to subtle energetic frequencies when we reduce the louder, more obvious distractions.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move to the eyes. How does fasting apply to our sight?
So fasting with the eyes in this framework isn't about, walking around blindfolded.
Right, huh?
It's more about consciously managing the constant flood of visual information. Think about screens, ads, just the sheer volume of stuff we see.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah.
The endless scroll. It can feel really draining sometimes.
Yeah.
So how does limiting that or taking away the vision, as Sheikh Nurjan says, help energetically?
Again, it's about creating space. An energetic clearing, pushing away the visual plate of the material world's constant stimulation.
And what fills that space?
Sheikh Nurjan suggests this allows room for beatific visions to enter the heart. Now, again, probably not literal hallucinations for most people.
More like insights, the deeper clarity, things bubbling up from within.
Exactly. Moments of inner knowing, a clearer perception that arises when the external visual noise is dialed down.
So shifting focus from out there to in here, creating a quiet visual space inside. He also talks about tasting from your sight. How does it work?
It seems to mean experiencing that deeper understanding, that inner clarity, through this intentional visual quietening.
Oh.
When we aren't constantly pulled outwards by every flashing light or moving image, our inner vision, maybe our intuition, gets sharper. We start to see things more profoundly.
That resonates. Like when you close your eyes to really focus on something, you're literally blocking out visual noise to let inner understanding surface.
Okay, what about touch? How do we fast with touch energetically?
Fasting with touch in these teachings seems to be about a mindful reduction in excessive social interaction and constant external physical stimulation.
Creating clearer energetic boundaries.
That's a good way to think about it. It's not about total isolation, but being more intentional about physical closeness and not always being immersed in a crowd's energy soup, so to speak.
Energy soup, I like that. Why is that significant, energetically speaking?
Well, when we're constantly mixed in with lots of other people's energies, our own energy field can get a bit jumbled, diffuse.
Sheikh Nurjan uses a really good comparison here. Think about a busy public swimming pool versus your own shower.
Okay.
In the pool, you're in this mix of everyone else's stuff, energies, mostly unaware. But in your own shower, there's a clarity, right? It's just you.
Gotcha. So it's about maintaining our own distinct energetic signature, feeling it more clearly.
Precisely. By intentionally reducing that constant external contact, that plate of worldly interaction, we become more sensitive to our own subtle energy field.
And he uses a specific term for this state.
Yes, latif, which means subtle or refined. Becoming latif is becoming more aware of your own energy and also maybe more sensitive to the subtle energetic influences from others too.
Ah, okay, so you feel the ripples more.
Yeah, he used that image too, like dropping a pebble into a still pond. External energies create ripples that disturb our inner calm. Being mindful of touch helps keep the pond stiller.
A calmer inner pond. I like that. Okay, last one. Smell. This feels a bit more subtle already. How does fasting with smell work here?
Sheikh Nurjan connects the sense of smell quite directly to what he calls angelic reality and angelic frequencies.
Interesting. Higher vibrational frequency.
It seems so. The idea is that when we're in the state of overall sensory refinement, maybe more seclusion, our sense of smell can actually become more attuned to these very subtle, perhaps higher vibrational signatures or scents.
So when we're not bombarded by, say, strong perfumes or pollution or cooking smells all the time?
Our nose might be able to pick up on finer energetic scents, things associated with a more refined reality.
That's fascinating. It adds another dimension, suggesting all our senses can potentially perceive beyond the purely physical if the interference is reduced.
Exactly. It highlights that potential.
So we've talked ears, eyes, touch, smell, bringing it all together. Sheikh Nurjan talks about unlocking taste. What does that represent? It's not just the tongue, right?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Taste, in this broader context, represents the overall experience, the deeper understanding, the insights, the felt sense of reality that emerges when all the senses are consciously refined.
So when we intentionally manage the input from all these channels,
Directing them inward, reducing the external overload.
our capacity to experience reality itself becomes richer, more profound,
That's the idea. It unlocks a different kind of experiential taste.
which connects right back to that feeling we started with, wanting that deeper understanding, those aha moments that go beyond just facts.
Precisely. And Sheikh Nurjan even ties this back to practices like Ramadan, suggesting the real potential isn't just the physical part.
But the opportunity for this deeper sensory refinement, and he mentions a hadith, right, about people only getting thirst and hunger if they don't engage more deeply.
Yes, that without this conscious refinement of hearing, seeing, speaking, interacting, the experience might just stay on that surface, physical level, hunger and thirst.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. The core takeaway seems to be that this fasting with the senses, looking at it energetically, isn't about punishment or just deprivation.
No, it's more like a proactive practice. Consciously refining our awareness through how we use our senses, what we listen to, look at, touch, even smell.
Intentionally creating space from the constant barrage of the material world.
To become more tuned in to the subtle energies. inside us and around us.
Leading potentially to a richer, deeper, more meaningful experience of reality. A different taste of life, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Which really brings up a thought-provoking question for everyone listening, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What might actually shift for you in your own awareness, your own experience, if you intentionally chose to fast just one sense for a little while?
Not because you have to, but just as an experiment to see if you become more sensitive to those subtle energies we usually ignore.
Exactly. Whether it's being super selective about sounds for a day, or mindfully reducing visual clutter, or being more conscious of physical interactions.
Or even just paying attention to subtle scents. It feels like there's a real potential there to tap into something deeper.
It's definitely something to explore in your own way. No need for rigid rules, just curiosity about your own sensory landscape.
Yeah, playing with your own awareness. Well, this has been fascinating to dive into.
Always new ways to look at things.
Absolutely. Thanks for exploring this with us today. Until next time, keep tuning in every sense of the word.